At the beginning of the story, we are taken into a sudden ambush where 12 Norwegian resistance fighters are surrounded by German troops. One by one, they are captured. But one man, Jan, refuses to surrender. He refuses to beg or act like a coward. Instead, he keeps fighting back and does everything he can to escape. Even after a bullet shatters his toe, Jan forces himself to keep moving. Limping is still better than being captured and losing his life. A day passes, and by March 30th, Jan is still being hunted. That night, he nearly gets cornered. German soldiers fire flares in every direction, leaving him with no choice but to cross a freezing lake. When the Germans realize the water temperature is near 0 degrees, their commander decides to stop the chase. He believes Jan will die on his own from the cold. But he is wrong. Against all odds, Jan survives, even as his body begins to freeze. This is the 12th man. Eventually, Jan stumbles upon 2 women rowing a small boat. He asks for help, and they bring him to a local home. There, Jan reassures the homeowner that he only needs a moment to warm himself before continuing on toward Tromsø, where he hopes to rescue his captured comrades. At the same time, the head of the Gestapo, Kurt, is inspecting the captured prisoners. He soon realizes that the 12th man, Jan, is still missing. When Wenders is questioned about this, he claims there is no need to search, believing Jan would have died while crossing the icy lake, especially in his wounded condition. But Kurt does not accept this explanation. The fact that no body has been found troubles him. To be certain, he orders Wenders to search nearby homes, especially those belonging to people with medical knowledge, such as doctors or midwives. Before continuing toward Tromsø, Jan is taken to see a doctor so his wounds can be treated. Unfortunately, the doctor is not home, but his wife, who is also a midwife, does what she can to help. She warns Jan that if he plans to reach Tromsø safely, he should take a different route to avoid German patrols. Her warning soon proves to be right. Not long after, German soldiers arrive to search the area. Thanks to the midwife's kindness and quick thinking, Jan manages to escape once again, slipping away just before the soldiers close in. On the other side, Kurt uncovers documents revealing that the Norwegian fighters had named their mission Operation Martin Red. However, there is still no trace of the 12th man. Even after prisoners are tortured and brutally pressured for information, none of them reveal anything. Wenders insists once again that the 12th man must already be dead. But Kurt refuses to believe it. His instincts tell him otherwise. To prove his point, he personally tests how long a human can survive in freezing water. Yet after only 2 minutes, even he cannot endure the cold, forcing him to retreat. After escaping the German pursuit, Jan finally reaches Karanis and takes shelter in the home of a nurse named Regan. Once his wounds are treated, he receives shocking news later that night. German forces have begun mass arrests in Tromsø, and they have uncovered secret documents linked to the resistance group he was part of. Regan also shares heartbreaking news from the hospital. One of Jan's friends has been tortured to death. Another is critically wounded. The rest, tragically, are scheduled to be executed that very night. Hearing this, Jan is completely shaken. A young girl named Margaret tries to comfort him and lift his spirits, but the reality remains cruel. One of his closest comrades, Eric, eventually dies from the severe torment he endured. The remaining prisoners are executed in front of a prepared mass grave, shot repeatedly to make sure none survive. With all hope fading, Jan decides that his only chance is to flee to Sweden. A local boat owner helps him and points him toward a mountain route leading to Lyngsedet. He warns Jan to be extremely careful because Kurt is now fully committed to hunting him down. This is a man who never allows his targets to escape. That warning soon proves true. Kurt files his official report about the sabotage operation carried out by the 12 men. He informs both the SS and the Norwegian police that 10 have been executed, 1 has died, and 1 remains at large. That final man becomes his highest priority, a target he intends to find, dead or alive. After reaching the edge of the nearly frozen lake, Jan continues his journey. Using the skis given to him by the boat owner, he carefully follows what seems to be the safest route. When he reaches a border guarded by Nazi soldiers, he slowly moves through, trying not to draw attention. But then, by pure bad luck, he slips and falls. At that exact moment, Kurt happens to be nearby and starts approaching him. Fortunately, Kurt only picks up the hat Jan dropped and hands it back without suspicion. A few minutes later, however, he suddenly realizes the man he just met is the one he has been hunting. Jan immediately senses the danger. He speeds up, pushes himself downhill, and tries to escape. Suddenly, the snow gives way, and he is swept away in an avalanche. Even so, he survives. Though badly injured, he manages to breathe and slowly crawl away from the disaster. With his remaining strength, he eventually reaches a nearby house without being seen by German soldiers. Inside, he finds only a bag containing a drawing given to him by Margaret. Fortunately, the house belongs to Marius, who supports him and agrees to hide him. German troops later search the area, but leave without discovering Jan. Weak, wounded, and freezing, he is cared for by Gudrun and Marius over several days inside a farm storage building. When his condition slightly improves, Jan asks about the map inside his bag. Gudrun admits she knows nothing about it, and the conversation shifts to other things. Gudrun continues to encourage Jan to stay strong through everything he has endured. But just as things begin to calm down, Kurt and his men arrive to search the area again. Suspicious of Gudrun's behavior, Kurt decides to inspect the barn. Jan prepares himself with his weapon, waiting as Kurt approaches the upper level. At the last moment, Kurt's prize badge falls to the ground. He turns back to retrieve it, and because of that, he never fully searches the barn. Knowing that Jan can no longer stay there, Marius and the others decide to move him to a remote cabin far from the area. The journey is dangerous, with German soldiers posted throughout the region, but they manage to reach the shelter and leave him with basic supplies. Marius and the others then head out, planning how to eventually get Jan across the border into Sweden. Jan spends his days alone. One morning he wakes up and realizes how severe his injury has become. When he unwraps his foot, he sees that the wound is badly infected and beginning to rot. Refusing to let the infection spread further, he makes a desperate decision. Enduring unimaginable pain, he cuts off his own toes and presses the remains against the wall, doing whatever it takes to survive. On April 24th, 26 days after going on the run and 12 days spent hiding in the small cabin, Jan is finally visited by Marius. He brings hopeful news. He has found a way to get Jan safely into Sweden. Together with others, Marius helps guide Jan through the mountain paths using the equipment they prepared earlier. The journey is brutal. They struggle step by step, dragging Jan across steep and dangerous terrain. Eventually, they reach a meeting point where Jan must wait alone. Someone else will come to pick him up. Marius and his companion decide to turn back, afraid that German patrols might discover them. Before leaving, Marius gives Jan one clear instruction. When the contact arrives, Jan must say the code phrase, "Hello, gentlemen," to confirm that the person can be trusted. A few days later, Marius and Gudrun believe that Jan has already reached Sweden. But then the messenger returns with shocking news. He never found Jan. After retracing his steps, they realize he went to the wrong location. By then, it has already been 4 days since they last left Jan behind. Disturbed by the mistake, Marius decides to go back for him. This time, he brings Agnet along because of her medical experience. When they arrive, they are horrified to see the area buried under snow. As they dig through it, they find Jan completely frozen. Marius is overcome with guilt, believing he has failed him. But then, Agnet notices a small movement. Jan blinks. He is still alive. They quickly dig him out, and Marius repeatedly apologizes, promising he will never make such a mistake again. Nearly 10 more days pass before the rescuers finally return to take Jan towards Sweden. Sadly, their journey is interrupted by harsh weather, forcing them to take a longer and more dangerous route. The next morning, Jan wakes up only to realize he still has not crossed the border. One of the rescuers, Nigo, reassures him that they will not give up. The weather is brutal, and German patrols now guard the border tightly, but Nigo promises to keep trying no matter the risk. For 17 long days, Jan's condition continues to worsen. The local villagers take turns bringing him food and offering encouragement to keep him alive. Finally, on May 28th, Nigo finds a way. He arranges for Jan to be taken with a reindeer herder who will guide him safely across the border into Sweden. Meanwhile, Gudrun and Marius are searching for the scarf Jan left behind. Luckily, they manage to find it. But their relief does not last long. German soldiers suddenly appear, and both of them are accused of helping Jan escape. The suspicion grows stronger when Kurt discovers a piece of Jan's severed toe still stuck to the wall inside the cabin. At the same time, Jan is seen crossing a vast stretch of snow, pulled forward by a reindeer. Even though German soldiers are guarding the area, a large herd of reindeer blocks their view, allowing him to pass unnoticed. But fate intervenes again. The rope suddenly snaps, exposing his position. Without hesitation, the soldiers begin chasing him. As gunfire erupts, Jan desperately pushes the sled forward with his own hands. The effort pays off. The sled speeds downhill and carries him out of danger, just in time. Back with Gudrun and Marius, the situation turns grim. They are interrogated and beaten, pressured to reveal the location of the 12th man. Despite the pain, neither of them gives in. Meanwhile, Jan reaches a moment of complete despair. As he prepares to give up, something unexpected appears before him. A large white reindeer stands nearby. Seeing this as his final chance, John ties the reins to his sled once more. The sled moves again, and despite heavy gunfire from the border guards, he pushes forward with everything he has. He knows the border he has been fighting to reach is now right in front of him. Back with Kurt, disbelief takes over when he receives the call confirming that Jan has reached the border. His confidence finally collapses. For the first time, the man who had never failed is forced to accept defeat. Jan's journey finally comes to an end. Though deeply traumatized by everything he endured, he is finally safe. Gudrun and Marius are overcome with emotion when they learn that he has made it. 3 months later, Jan submits a full report of his mission in the secret operation known as Martin Red. After that, he returns to his unit, continuing to train new soldiers until the war ends on May 8, 1945. Kurt is later sentenced to death for war crimes and executed in 1947. And in 1988, Jan passes away and is laid to rest in Mandolin. So the moral of the story is that even when the world tries to break you piece by piece, courage, kindness, and the will to survive can still carry you through unimaginable pain, even if the cost is losing parts of yourself forever.